In unlimited hydroplane racing, speed is of course the key to winning, but going 200 miles an hour, not the only way to get a boat to the checkered flag. Racing hydro is also about strategy. 12 of the fastest boats on the water travel around the country and halfway around the world, vying for a season-long National High Points Championship. This opening weekend, the stakes even higher. A world championship is on the line. H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing, next. An unlimited hydroplane is the world's fastest racing boat, capable of speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour. Powered by a single Lycoming T55L7 turbine engine that once powered our military Chinook helicopters. The turbine is capable of outputs of 3,000 horsepower. No thrust created from the exhaust. Instead, the power is channeled to a 16-inch diameter propeller in the rear. These machines literally fly across the water, and this weekend in the Middle East, a chance at the Oryx Cup and a world title. We are in Doha, Qatar, the shining jewel of the Middle East, located on the shore of the Persian Gulf. This is the H1 Unlimited Oryx Cup UIM World Championships. Hi everybody, Rich Hollenberg alongside Steve Montgomery. The 2013 Unlimited season kicks off this weekend with its crown jewel competition, and returning national champion Steve David continues his reign as number one, qualifying at the top of the leaderboard with a speed close to 144 miles an hour, and it's tight throughout these top 9 finishers so far.
Heat 1A gives us a great matchup right out of the box here, Rich. We have 2 of the fastest race boats in the world on the water right there. Our top qualifier, Steve David, is the boat on your left, the red and green Oh Boy Oberto. Jimmy Shane on your right in the red and gold 5 Graham Trucking, actually qualified 3rd. Steve David had about a mile per hour on Jimmy Shane in qualifying, and we'll see how that translates here. We're on lap 1. Onto the backstretch for the first time. Jimmy Shane using that front wing on the Graham Trucking to control the attitude of the boat. He runs that with his left foot. Each boat will race in 4 preliminary heats, earning points like this. The winner gets 400 points, second 300, and so on. Those points are added to points earned in qualifying. The top qualifier gets 100 points, second place 80, third 70. After all the prelims have been run, the 6 boats with the most points go into the final heat with a chance to race for the 2013 Oryx Cup UIM World Championship. Down to the end of lap 1, and Steve David has moved out to a little bit of a lead here on Jimmy Shane. Shane running the shorter race course on the inside, but David with just a little more boat speed, able to stay ahead of him. Onto the backstretch for the second time. This is a 3-lap preliminary. The final will be 5 laps. A lot of racing here on this rough Doha Bay. Jimmy Shane still operating that front wing, doing everything he can to make up ground on the defending National High Point champion, the veteran out of Lighthouse Point, Florida. You see a little bit of a lead there, about 2 or 3 boat lengths for Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto. Into turn 2 for the second time, leaving a lot of room for Shane on the inside. Jimmy will get through there okay. Steve David keeping the boat speed up, coming down to finish lap 2. Almost a rooster tail lead at that point over Jimmy Shane. Running into the sunset here on Doha Bay for the final time. We are into lap 3. Your leader on the left, Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto. You saw Jimmy Shane inside him, and now Shane moving up a little bit. Shane gaining ground here in lap 3. They're onto the backstretch for the final time, and Shane has moved ahead. Jimmy Shane now has a lead over Steve David. On the inside, now can David get around Shane when Shane has the advantage of the shorter, smaller turn? Steve David moving up. They're going to be side by side going into turn 2 for the final time. There comes the entrance pin. Both drivers turning left. David appears from that angle to have a little bit of a lead. Shane inside him. Steve out in about lane 2 or 3 as he comes through the turn. Where is Jimmy Shane? There he went through the wake. Jimmy Shane had to go through the wake to the outside of Steve David, and Steve David is going to take a great race here in our first preliminary, Heat 1A, down to the checkered flag for Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto.
So, Steve, here's a look at your results after round one and qualifying. 400 points for a win, plus the qualifying points put Steve David on top with 500, and Shane is right behind him with 400. Coming up, we have heats 2A and 2B as we motor towards the final heat.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Series, the Oryx Cup UIM World Championship on CBS Sports Network is brought to you by Peters & May Global Boat Transport, the world's leading boat transport provider.
And welcome back to Doha, Qatar for coverage of the 2013 H1 Unlimited Oryx Cup UIM World Championship alongside Steve Montgomery. I'm Rich Hollenberg. Unlimited Hydros Racing takes a crew of dedicated men and women to keep these boats in the water, but a driver's split-second decision can determine a victory or the end of the day, and sometimes even the end of a season. When reaching speeds of 200 miles an hour, unforgiving water conditions could send boats flying in the air with devastating outcomes. Drivers control the attitude of the boat with a foot pedal controlling the front canard that literally flies the boats across the water. And Steve, these drivers are dancing with danger every time they sit in their cockpits. Now we line up for Heat 2A.
Heat 2A on the water. J. Michael Kelly in the white boat on your right. That is the 37 Beacon Plumbing. Kelly, a master at getting the inside. He's done it again. He has 4 boats. Off to his right, that's Tom Thompson in the Chartreuse and Blue. 11 Peters & May, just to the right of Kelly. Into turn 1 for the first time. Kelly's boat handles beautifully. On the inside, he will use that to his advantage. Look at the white boat on the outside. That is John Zimmerman in the 9 Team Red Dot. He may have the fastest boat on the water. He's actually the leader onto the backstretch, but he's out in about lane 4 or 5. That's a big race course. That will work to his disadvantage. Over on the inside, Kelly, as we watch from the rear wing of Tom Thompson's boat, the Peters & May. You saw Brian Perkins in the green and white boat to his right, and they get very close right there, coming off of turn 2. The run down to start-finish to end lap 1, and Kelly now has moved out to a little bit of a lead. He has 3 boats to his right and back a little in a virtual tie for second place. Kelly the leader in the 37 Beacon Plumbing, the all-white boat on the inside. That is the other white boat, the view from John Zimmerman's boat on the outside. Kelly into turn 1 for the second time, using that short race course to his advantage. John Zimmerman going by on the outside. We have an accident. There is a crash in turn 1. The 11 Peters & May went right over Brian Perkins.
This is the dangerous part of hydroplane racing, especially when you're deck to deck.
Here is the view from the wing of Perkins' boat as the 11 Peters & May comes over and goes right through his canopy and cartwheels into Doha Bay. Look at the destruction to the 11 Peters & May. Heat 2B is underway on the water now, and we have a rematch. It's Jimmy Shane and Steve David hooking it up one more time. Shane has the inside. Hard to tell the colors here with the very low sun over Doha Bay, but that's Shane's boat on your right. Steve David on the left has a little bit of a lead now. They're coming through turn 2 for the first time. Look at the lead for David. It's about a half a boat length as they come down to complete lap 1. Jimmy Shane on your right in the red and gold 5-gram trucking. The red and green is the Oh Boy Oberto. Steve David, the veteran driver. Our top qualifier, the defending national high point champion, trying to hold off the 28-year-old youngster from Havre de Grace, Maryland. And look at the boat speed here. They are up near 190, perhaps 195 miles per hour. Going into that turn one more time. Shane moves out to a little bit of a lead now over Steve David. Shane actually the leader by less than a boat length, but here comes the Oberto one more time. Steve David appears to have superior boat speed on the youngster, and he uses it to his advantage to take the lead right there. That's the view Jimmy Shane has, doing everything he can to stay ahead of the Oberto, and it wasn't enough. That big yellow buoy is the entrance. Oh, they're close there. They may have bumped. If they didn't make contact, it was really, really close. It knocked Steve David out a little bit. Shane took the lead. Now the run down to the checkered flag, and this is going to be close. It's a drag race to the finish line. Shane has a little bit of a lead on the inside. Here comes the Oberto on the outside. Can he catch him at the line? It's Jimmy Shane by inches. The 5 Graham Trucking, and the challenger wins the rematch.
But Steve, you heard it as well as I did. Steve David in the cockpit said he hit me, meaning Jimmy Shane. So these race results right now are tentative to say the least. You're going to have to stick and stay to find out what the updated results are.
On the 5 for bearing out.
On that first?
The heat we were just in.
So some controversy in Heat 2 between two of the top drivers in hydroplane racing. Heat 3 coming up from Doha, Qatar. Welcome back to Doha, Qatar. In Heat 2B, there was some contact made between two boats. Steve David got the win, and he explains what happened.
Hook means your turn pin comes out. He slid over and hit us pretty violently, put some holes in his boat, damaged ours. But when you do that, you're held responsible for it. So he received a 1-lap penalty and a $250 fine, and then if he does it again, he'll be disqualified.
It's just a racing deal, nothing more than that. Nothing against Steve, nothing against me. So we're happy that we came out with the result, and we're ready for the next heat. As soon as we patch up a few little holes here, and we'll be good to go.
Good to go, but now Graham Trucking and Jimmy Shane are knocked down to 4th place after the results of round 2. Oh boy, Oberto, and Steve David still in the top spot.
Here's the start of Heat 3A. The red boat, that's Mark Evans in the 57 Fedco. Way on the outside. Over on the inside, this is the view from J. Michael Kelly's 37 Beacon Plumbing. Kip Brown in the 95 Spirit of Qatar in lane 2. Kelly again gets the inside and the advantage. Racing against the local favorite, Kip Brown, racing for the entire country of Qatar and all the local fans here in Doha. Kelly has a nice ride over there in lane 1, and Brown in pursuit on the outside, carrying the colors of the flag of Qatar, the white and maroon with the 7 points of the flag. And onto the backstretch, Brown takes the lead. The 95 Spirit of Qatar now moving out to a lead over J. Michael Kelly in the 37 Beacon Plumbing. These two drivers, both from the Seattle, Washington area, way up in the northwest corner of the U.S. They have been racing since they were youngsters, 8 or 9 years old, moving up through the outboard and inboard ranks to the biggest, fastest race boats in the world. Now Brown with a pretty good lead as he comes down the straightaway to complete lap 1, racing right into that very, very bright setting sun here over Doha Bay. Kip Brown, Ravensdale, Washington, our leader. The fans on the shore loving this. Kip already has a lot of local fans here in Doha racing for Qatar. There is the view from J. Michael Kelly's boat. You saw Kip Brown way up ahead of him now. Brown with a nice lead. He's into turn 1. One more time, swinging onto the backstretch here on Doha Bay. J. Michael Kelly in pursuit but falling back. Look at that boat ride as Kip runs it nice and loose, keeping it just above the surface of the water. You see a little bit of a rooster tail off the skid fin on the left side, and it will grow as he goes into turn 2. In the straightaway, the rooster tail comes off the propeller. Just about a third to a half of the froth in the water at one time. Every time a blade comes out of the water, it shoots water into the air, and that's where you see that big, long rooster tail, tons of water in the air behind the race boat. Kip Brown coming right at us now in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. J. Michael Kelly has dropped back into second place. Brown turning left onto the front straightaway one more time. He'll come down to start-finish. There's a long shot. You see the skyline of this beautiful city in the background as J. Michael Kelly has dropped back now further than the rooster tail of Kip Brown's boat. Kelly running second in the 37 Beacon Plumbing. A superior turning boat. Did not have the chute speed, though, to run with Kip Brown. The view every driver wants to have of the competition. Nobody out ahead of Kip Brown in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. One turn to go to the checkered flag, and this will be a very, very popular win. All the locals here in Qatar have really, really embraced this race team. The 95 Spirit of Qatar. Down the front straightaway to the checkered flag, and Kip Brown out of Ravensdale, Washington, the winner of Heat 3A.
Big sign of improvement there. You know, partially it's because I'm not a bonehead and didn't jump the gun. But, you know, from a previous heat, we kind of figured that we could motor around the 37. And, you know, so that was our plan. I wanted to sneak up in there in lane 2, make a legal start, and just let the Spirit of Qatar do what we know it can do.
And what it did was get Kip Brown another 400 points, but Steve David still in first. Graham Trucking and Jimmy Shane won Heat 3B, so they moved up a notch to third place. Then we fast forward to Heats 4A and B, and in Heat 4A, Steve David, Jimmy Shane, deck to deck again. This time, David plays gotcha and wins Heat 4A. So your final results after Heats 4A and B are tallied, Steve David still remains on top with 1,600 total, and there's Jones Racing in second, and Jimmy Shane and the Graham Trucking boat in third. Those 3 boats plus the other 3 make up a 6-boat final in Qatar for the World Championship, and we have it for you next.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Series, the Oryx Cup UIM World Championship on CBS Sports Network is brought to you by Peters and May Global Boat Transport, the world's leading boat transport provider.
We welcome you back to Doha, Qatar for the 2013 H1 Unlimited Oryx Cup. The biggest race of the year in hydroplanes is the first race of the year. It's the World Championship winner-take-all. And Steve David and the Oh Boy Alberto #1 boat currently in first going into this final. But the boat to watch, Jimmy Shane and that #5 Graham Trucking boat.
The big fast final heat field is on Doha Bay, and they have really turned it up. It's a 5-lap final, and it's going to be rough. You're looking at Steve David. He's going to have to come from lane 2 because Jimmy Shane has won the race for lane 1 on the backstretch. Now Steve David is going to come over and take it away. He can do that legally with a 5-boat overlap before the start of the race. Did he have 5 boat lengths? We could not tell from that angle. The officials are reviewing it. We are told a helicopter above the race course has a referee in it looking down. They also will use a video replay to determine if Steve David's move coming over and taking Jimmy Shane's lane was legal. We are about a quarter of a lap from the start of the race now, coming down to the start-finish line, watching the timing marks. Shane turns left, Steve David drops back just a little bit. Shane is going to make a run at the start line, watching his timing marks, and he is going to be legal. It's a good start for Jimmy Shane. He is the leader at the start-finish line, and that's exactly where he needed to be to have any hope of beating Steve David here in this final. And there comes the Alberto. Steve David literally leaping into your picture on the inside and taking the lead into turn 1. Shane now in pursuit. He'll come through the turn. Steve David got way out of shape coming out of that turn, had to pedal it down, get the boat under control. That bobble cost him a little bit of speed. Jimmy Shane able to move right up on his hip. One more time, the youngster continues to challenge, but now the superior boat speed of our top qualifier takes over again on the back straightaway. And you see Steve David moving out to a lead over Jimmy Shane. Into turn 2, and he's loose again. Getting a very, very loose ride from the Alberto. The best drivers in the sport like it loose and fast, and that's exactly how Steve David is driving out ahead here. He has 4 laps to go now as he comes down to cross, start-finish at the end of lap 1. Our leader is Steve David. This driver right here heading right into that setting sun to the west of Doha Bay definitely has an effect on the driver's vision. Not bothering Steve David too much. He is the leader. Into turn 1 for the second time. He got very loose down here. Last time through, a little better control this time. There is our leader on the water at least while that situation is under review.
The one in turn 2. He had overlapped.
And Steve, we're just getting word from the race officials. Steve David has been penalized a lap. This goes back to before the race even started. He crossed over lanes and didn't give Jimmy Shane enough room to do that.
Here's the situation before the start of the heat. Steve David coming over on the backstretch before the start and taking away lane 1. Jimmy Shane, after he's gone through the rooster tail, obviously very close to Steve David.
And Steve, what a huge turn of events. Fortuitous for Shane, devastating for David.
You are looking at the leader. Jimmy Shane in the 5-gram trucking is now leading the final heat of the 2013 Oryx Cup UIM World Championship. He won this race in January, looking now to repeat. That is John Zimmerman in the 9 Team Red Dot. John is third on the water. This will move him, the penalty on Steve David, will move him up into second place here in the final heat. Racing for Team Red Dot out of Kent, Washington, Mike and Lori Jones. This boat is owned by Ted Porter and family out of Decatur, Indiana. Racing for Rob Graham and the Graham Trucking Company of Seattle. The Oh Boy Oberto, an interesting story. It is owned by the 13,000 citizens of Madison, Indiana. Sponsored, of course, by the Oberto Sausage Company of Seattle. The driver, the veteran out of Lighthouse going forward. But here is our leader, Jimmy Shane, going by the skyline. He's going to lose his cowling, perhaps. That won't affect things too much. Might change the aerodynamics of the boat a bit. Steve David continues in pursuit, second on the water. Way back in the field, though, after that 1-lap penalty, bringing it through turn 2 again. It's very rough in there. The leader now is back behind Steve David. There you saw him coming into the turn, and here he is passing a boat on the backstretch. Jimmy Shane on his way to a second Oryx Cup UIM World Championship if he can just keep it on the water and keep it ahead of John Zimmerman in the 9 Team Red Dot. Coming up on the city of Qatar, he will turn it left now, make the run down to start-finish line, and the checkered flag will fly at the Oryx Cup for Jimmy Shane and the 5-gram trucking.
So a hard-fought win, and he got some breaks going his way as well. This World Championship now moves Jimmy Shane and the Graham Trucking Boat into second place in the National High Point standings. After the race, Jimmy Shane spoke about that break that got him the title.
You know, it's in the rule book. You have so much overlap that you can give each other, and Steve finally got called for it. I made it as close as I could for him when we went up there to the 1-minute pin, and he definitely didn't have the overlap to come over, so we finally got the call to go our way, and that's why we came out on top.
It was a thrilling weekend of speed and spills from Doha, Qatar, and Jimmy Shane continues his reign. It's back-to-back world titles for the number 5 Graham Trucking, defending his crown against the current national champ Steve David, among others. This is going to be a rivalry to watch the entire season. Next up, Sacramento, the second stop on the Unlimited Tour. For Steve Montgomery and everyone on hand in Doha, I'm Rich Hollenberg. So long for now.